Have you ever noticed how a single fleeting moment can hijack your entire mind? What if the mistake you are desperately replaying is not actually the source of your suffering, but rather how tightly you are holding onto it? Most people do not realize that the agony of a stumble is rarely about the fall itself. It is about the fear of who was watching. If you have ever felt stuck, anxious, emotionally exhausted, or paralyzed after a difficult day, this is for you. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may change the way you see this pain forever. 1. The weight of a single mistake. What if the harder you try to be perfect, the further peace moves away? Here is the truth few people want to face. The tighter you hold onto your image, the more you suffer when the mask slips. You know the heavy, sinking feeling. You send an important message with a glaring error. You stumble over your words in a crowded room. You make a wrong turn, drop a glass, or say the wrong thing to someone you deeply respect. Instantly, your chest tightens. The actual moment passes in seconds, but in your mind, it plays on an endless, punishing loop. You spend hours reliving a conversation that lasted only 10 seconds. You imagine everyone is watching. You imagine they are silently judging you. You feel as though your entire worth as a living, breathing human being has been erased by one brief stumble on an already difficult day. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that this agony is not caused by the mistake itself. The mistake is just an event in time. It arose and it passed away. The suffering comes from our deep, unyielding attachment to a flawless version of ourselves. We suffer because we cling to a narrative of perfection, fighting against the reality of what just happened. We refuse to accept the simple truth that we are human. Imagine standing by the edge of a vast, quiet lake. You toss a single, small pebble into the water. For a moment, there is a splash. Ripples form and push across the mirrored surface. But if you stand on the shore and yell at the water to be still, if you wade into the lake and wildly wave your arms to stop the ripples, you only create a violent storm. The original pebble has already sunk to the deep, silent bottom. The water was always going to settle on its own, if only you had left it alone. We do this with our minds every single day. You make a small error at work, or you fail to meet an expectation, and instead of letting the ripple pass, you jump in and agitate the water. You build a storm of anxiety. You tell yourself that this one error defines your intelligence, your capability, and your overall value in the world. Ask yourself, are you punishing yourself for a lack of perfection that no human being has ever achieved? Is this repetitive thought bringing you peace, or is it only feeding your fear? Pause, breathe, observe the thought without following it. Let the feeling of embarrassment rise, but do not make it your identity. The moment is gone, let it stay in the past. Because peace is not something you earn through a flawless performance. It is something you make space for when you forgive your own humanity. But letting go of this heavy expectation is only the first step. To truly release the weight, we must also look at the invisible crowd we believe is constantly judging us. And this is where the next truth begins. 2. The illusion of the watching eyes. What if the audience you are so afraid of only exists in your own mind? Here is a truth that is both humbling and deeply freeing. Most people are not watching you fail. They are too busy worrying about their own reflections. When you make a mistake, it feels as though the entire world stops turning just to look at you. Suddenly, you are standing under a blinding spotlight on a dark, silent stage. You assume your co-workers, your family, or even complete strangers are dissecting your every word and action. You become hyper-aware of your own movements. You worry about being ignored, yet you are terrified of being truly seen. You carry the heavy, exhausting burden of managing everyone else's perception of you. You carefully curate your life, your words, and your actions, desperately trying to ensure no one sees the cracks in your armor. You spend your days waiting for the judgment to fall. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that this feeling is one of the ego's greatest tricks. The ego convinces us that we are the absolute center of the universe, and because of this, every eye must always be fixed upon us. But Buddhism reminds us that this self-centered view is a trap that guarantees suffering. When we believe we are constantly being observed and evaluated, we attach our inner peace to the fleeting, unstable opinions of others. We become prisoners to shadows. We forget that everyone else is trapped in the exact same illusion, looking inward at their own fears, not outward at our mistakes. Imagine a small bird living inside an open cage. The metal door has been unlocked and wide open for years, swinging gently in the quiet breeze. But the bird refuses to fly out into the vast, open sky. It sits trembling on its wooden perch, utterly convinced that invisible hunters are hiding in the trees, watching its every move. It stays trapped, exhausted, and afraid of a danger that is not truly there. The cage is not made of iron, it is made of fear. Think about how often we do this in our modern, connected lives. You send an awkward email or stumble through a presentation, and you spend the rest of the week convinced your colleagues are secretly whispering about your incompetence. You replay a clumsy conversation from yesterday, absolutely certain the other person is still judging you today. You hesitate to share your true thoughts, your work, or your voice, terrified of a silent criticism that no one is actually thinking. We lock ourselves in the cage of public opinion, exhausted by the endless effort of performing for an empty room. Think about your own life. Whose eyes are you performing for? Are they even looking? What are you afraid will happen if you let go of the need to be impressive and simply allow yourself to be human? Stop trying to force the world to see you as flawless. Pause, breathe. When the fear of judgment rises, observe it without believing it. Do your part, then release the outcome. Let the illusion of the watching eyes fade into silence, because the freedom you are desperately looking for will never come from delivering a perfect performance. It will only come when you realize you were never on a stage to begin with. You do not need to defend your existence. But stepping off that stage requires a deep shift in how we measure our own worth. And this is where the next truth begins. 3. You are not your actions. What if the hardest thing to separate is the line between what you do and who you are? Here is the truth few people want to face. When you tie your entire existence to your daily performance, every bad day feels like a death to your identity. You know this feeling intimately. You work so hard to build a good reputation. You push yourself to be reliable, to be the one who always knows the answers, to be successful. But then, a day comes where your energy fails. You drop the ball, you miss an important deadline, or you handle a situation poorly. Instantly, the harsh inner voice attacks. It does not simply say, "You made a mistake." It says, "You are a mistake." You blur the boundary between a temporary action and your permanent worth. You convince yourself that your value as a living being rises and falls with your productivity, your success, and your ability to perfectly manage your daily life. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that this fusion of identity and action is a deep, exhausting source of suffering. In Buddhist thought, your true nature is already whole. It is not something you must earn through endless striving. The mistake you made is simply a passing event, subject to impermanence. It is a cloud moving across the sky. But we so often confuse ourselves with the cloud, forgetting that we are actually the vast, open sky behind it. When we attach our self-worth to our temporary actions, we forget our inherent, untouchable value. Imagine a massive, ancient tree standing quietly in an open field. A violent storm rolls in. The wind howls, tearing leaves from the branches. A heavy branch snaps and falls to the ground. For a moment, the tree looks battered. But the tree does not weep for its lost leaves. It does not believe its core is broken just because a branch fell on a difficult day. The deep, unseen roots remain anchored in the earth. The trunk stands firm. The storm is just weather passing through. The tree remains exactly what it has always been. We forget this in our own lives. You face a week of failure, a harsh criticism, or a project that completely falls apart. You feel as though your roots have been ripped from the earth. You look at your peers and feel terribly behind in life, comparing your messy, human reality to their polished achievements. You forget that the bad presentation, the forgotten task, or the clumsy conversation is just weather. It is just wind in the branches. It cannot touch the core of who you are, unless you allow it to. Ask yourself, how often do you measure the value of your spirit by the items checked off on a daily list? What would happen if you decided, right now, that your worth is non-negotiable? Stop, breathe, let that sink in. Separate the doer from the deed. Let the feeling of failure rise without making it your identity. You are allowed to be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the exact same time. Do your best. And when your best is messy, forgive yourself. You do not have to chase what is already leaving, because true inner peace begins when you stopped. But realizing this means we have to drop the heavy shields we have carried for so long. And this is where the next truth begins. 4. The heavy armor of perfectionism. What if the armor you wear to protect yourself is the very thing crushing your spirit? Here is the truth few people want to face. Perfectionism is not a measure of your excellence. It is a measure of your fear. You spend your days carefully constructing a flawless image. You triple-check every small detail. You rehearse quiet conversations before they even happen. You try to anticipate every possible criticism so you can block it before it arrives. You believe that if you simply work hard enough, if you never make a single mistake on a difficult day, you can finally earn the right to feel safe. But this safety is a ghost. Instead of feeling secure, you feel constantly emotionally exhausted. You are carrying a massive, invisible weight, terrified that one tiny slip will cause the entire structure of your life to collapse. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that this endless striving for complete control is a heavy form of attachment. We attach ourselves to an impossible, rigid ideal, forgetting that the nature of life is messy, changing, and entirely outside of our control. In Buddhism, the refusal to accept things exactly as they are is the root of our daily pain. By trying to force every moment to be perfectly managed, we are fighting against the natural, imperfect flow of the universe. We build massive walls to keep failure out, but we only succeed in locking ourselves inside. Imagine trying to swim across a wide, fast-moving river while wearing a suit of heavy iron armor. You put the armor on because you were afraid of the hidden rocks. You thought the thick metal would keep you perfectly safe from the rough water. But as you step into the river, the sheer weight of the iron immediately drags you under. The armor is not protecting you from the current, it is drowning you. The only way to survive the crossing, the only way to float and move gracefully with the water, is to unbuckle the heavy metal and let it sink into the dark depths. You must become light enough to float. We wear this heavy iron in our modern lives. You drag the weight of perfectionism into every workplace meeting, every relationship, and every quiet evening at home. You fear failure so deeply that you cannot even enjoy your own success. You are so busy bracing for impact, trying to manage how everyone else perceives your work, that you miss the simple joy of living. You forget that the people who truly matter do not respect you for your flawless performance. They connect with you through your shared humanity. Ask yourself, what are you so afraid will happen if you finally take off the armor? Are you truly protecting your peace, or are you just suffocating your own joy? Pause, breathe. Notice where you are holding tension right now and gently let it go. Stop trying to force the door open. You do not have to carry the heavy burden of being perfect today. Do your part, then release the outcome. Because true peace is not found by building stronger walls against the world. It is found when you realize you never needed the walls in the first place. But stepping out of that heavy armor means we must learn to trust the unpredictable current of life. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. The flow of impermanence. What if the moment you are desperately trying to erase no longer exists? Here is the truth few people want to face. You are exhausting your spirit by fighting a ghost, trying to freeze a world that is always moving forward. You know this endless cycle. You make a small error on a difficult day, and immediately your mind throws it into reverse. You spend the rest of the evening replaying the exact scene, imagining how you could have said it differently, acted faster, or been sharper. You negotiate with time, wishing you could rewind the clock just 5 minutes to undo the stumble. You become completely detached from the room you are currently sitting in, because all of your energy is trapped in a past that has already closed its doors. You are physically present, but emotionally, you are living inside a painful echo. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that this struggle is born from ignoring one of the most profound laws of life, impermanence. In Buddhist thought, absolutely everything is in a constant state of motion. No feeling, no mistake, and no triumph lasts forever. When we replay a painful memory, we suffer because we are trying to make a temporary event permanent. We cling to a moment that has already dissolved. Buddhism reminds us that the mistake only survives because we keep breathing life into it with our own attention. Imagine standing on the bank of a wide, rushing river. As you watch the water move, you accidentally drop a small, dark stone into the current. The river instantly carries it away, sweeping it downstream and out of sight. But instead of watching the river flow on, you drop to your knees in the mud. You reach your hands into the cold water, desperately trying to grab the exact same current that was there a moment ago. You claw at the empty water, hoping to pull the stone back up. But the water you are touching is new. The water that took the stone is already miles away, merging with the vast, quiet ocean. Think about how often we do this with our own mistakes. You stumble through a presentation or face a misunderstanding with a friend, and instead of letting the river of time carry it away, you stay on your knees. You claw at the empty space, refusing to let the day move forward. You bring the stress of a 10-second embarrassment into your quiet evening, ruining your rest. You allow a tiny fraction of your day to steal 24 hours of your peace. You forget that the world has already moved on, and you are the only one demanding that the river flow backward. Ask yourself, are you living in the quiet reality of right now, or are you trapped in a moment that has already ended? What are you still holding on to that has already left you behind? Pause, breathe, observe the memory without following it into the dark. Let the feeling of regret rise, acknowledge it, and let it flow past you like water over smooth stones. Do your part, then release the past. Let the storm pass without becoming the storm. Because peace is not found by perfectly rewriting your history. It is found by softly releasing your grip on what is already gone. But accepting the flow of time brings us face to face with our own raw, imperfect nature. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. The freedom in being human. What if the thing you are most ashamed of is the very thing that connects you to the rest of the world? Here is the truth few people want to face. The flaw you are trying so desperately to hide is not a failure of your character. It is simply the undeniable proof that you are real. You know this cold, sinking sense of isolation. You make a small error on a difficult day, and immediately you feel completely alone. You look around the room, or you scroll through the endless updates on your phone, and everyone else appears so perfectly polished. They seem entirely in control of their careers, their emotions, and their relationships. In that quiet moment of failure, you convince yourself that you are the only one who drops the ball. You believe you are the only one who struggles with anxiety, the only one who feels behind in life. You try to operate like a flawless, tireless machine, carefully processing tasks and interactions without a single glitch. But the exhausting pressure of pretending to be a machine is quietly breaking your human spirit. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that this intense feeling of isolation is an illusion born from ego. We suffer because we violently reject our fundamental nature. We are not designed to be perfect, unchanging statues. We are breathing, shifting, and entirely imperfect beings. In Buddhist thought, true compassion cannot exist without acknowledging the shared struggle of the human condition. When we despise our own mistakes, we close our hearts to the very vulnerability that connects us to the rest of the world. The expectation of flawless perfection is not a virtue. It is a profound misunderstanding of what it means to be alive. Imagine walking deep into an ancient, quiet forest. As you look around, you will notice that not a single tree grows in a perfectly straight line. Some trunks are bent and twisted by years of fierce wind. Some bark is heavily scarred by old fires. Some branches have broken entirely under the crushing weight of winter storms. Yet, when you look at the forest, you do not call it broken. You do not demand that every tree look exactly like a manufactured pole. You see the rough bark, the crooked branches, and the fallen leaves, and you call the forest beautiful, precisely because it is wild, natural, and shaped by the reality of the world. Think about how you treat yourself in your modern life. You expect yourself to be the perfectly straight, unbending tree. You sit at your desk, overwhelmed by a misstep, and you judge yourself with a brutal harshness you would never, ever use on a friend. You hide your human struggles, terrified someone will see your bent branches. You compare your messy, behind-the-scenes reality to the carefully curated highlight reels of strangers. You forget that every person you admire is also carrying their own silent fears, making their own clumsy mistakes, and weathering their own unseen storms. Ask yourself, why do you grant so much beautiful grace to the people around you, but violently deny it to yourself? What would happen if you finally accepted that being tired, messy, and imperfect is not a failure, but a shared human truth? Pause, breathe, let the shame dissolve into the quiet air. You do not need to hide your humanity today. Let the feeling rise without making it your enemy. Give yourself permission to be a masterpiece and a work in progress at the exact same time. Stop fighting the reality of who you are, because inner peace is not found by finally becoming a flawless machine. It is found when you realize there is profound, untouchable freedom in simply being human. But accepting this freedom requires us to change how we react in the exact second a mistake occurs. And this is where the next truth begins. 7. The pause between mistake and meaning. What if the most important moment of your life is not the mistake itself, but the quiet second immediately after it happens? Here is the truth few people want to face. You cannot always control when you will stumble, but your deepest suffering is born in how quickly you rush to judge the fall. You know this immediate, violent reaction. The instant you send the wrong message, speak awkwardly in a meeting, or realize you forgot a crucial task, a heavy panic floods your chest. You do not simply observe the error. You instantly assign a massive, catastrophic meaning to it. You tell yourself, within milliseconds, that this ruins everything. You project the failure into the future, assuming the absolute worst possible outcome. You leap from a minor daily friction straight into a permanent state of crisis. You lose your inner peace, not because of what actually happened in the physical world, but because you refuse to wait and see what it actually meant. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the profound power of the pause. In Buddhist thought, there is a sacred, silent gap between an event and our reaction to it. Suffering arises when we forcefully collapse that gap, when we let our old fears instantly dictate our new reality. Mindfulness is not about preventing every mistake from happening. It is about gently expanding that quiet space between the trigger and the final response. It is the gentle practice of seeing the event clearly, without immediately wrapping it in heavy layers of panic, judgment, and self-blame. Imagine a single glowing spark flying from a bright campfire and landing on the ground. If that spark lands on a bed of dry, brittle grass, it instantly ignites. Within seconds, a massive, uncontrollable wildfire sweeps through the trees, destroying everything in its path. But what if that exact same spark lands on a smooth, cool stone? It glows brightly for one brief second, and then, finding absolutely nothing to burn, it simply fades out into the quiet night. The spark itself did not change. The only difference was the surface it landed on. Think about how this pattern repeats in your daily life. A sudden mistake at work, a harsh criticism, or a misunderstanding with someone you love is just a tiny spark. But your mind is so often like that dry, brittle grass, heavily fueled by exhaustion, stress, and the desperate pressure to be perfect. The instant the mistake happens, your fear ignites. You burn down your own peace for the rest of the week. You create a roaring disaster out of a simple, passing moment. But you have the power to be the stone. You have the power to let the event land, observe it in silence, and refuse to give it the heavy fuel of your anxiety. Ask yourself, when something suddenly goes wrong, do you immediately feed it with your darkest fears? What would happen if you simply allowed a mistake to just be a mistake, without rushing to make it a tragedy? Pause, breathe, let the sudden rush of panic hang in the air for a moment. You do not have to answer it. Observe the spark, without giving it your dry grass to burn. Because true emotional control is not about forcing the outside world to be perfectly smooth. It is about keeping your inner sky clear, even when a sudden fire appears. But calming this instant reaction requires us to deeply change how we treat the person who actually made the mistake. And this is where the next truth begins. 8. Forgiving the self that stumbled. What if the person you are most angry with is the one who needs your kindness the most? Here is the truth few people want to face. You cannot heal an emotional wound by constantly punishing the one who is bleeding. You know this brutal, silent war. After the mistake has passed, after the awkward moment is over, a cold and ruthless voice takes over your mind. You do not just regret the error, you actively attack the person who made it. You call yourself careless, foolish, or inadequate. You replay the difficult day not to learn from it, but to ensure you feel the maximum amount of shame. You believe, deep down, that if you are cruel enough to yourself, if you punish yourself severely enough, you will somehow guarantee that you never make a mistake again. You use self-hatred as a tool for self-improvement, slowly crushing your own spirit in the name of progress. Buddhist wisdom teaches us that this internal violence is one of the deepest sources of human suffering. In Buddhist thought, true compassion must begin exactly where you are standing. It is impossible to generate true peace in the world if you are constantly waging war inside your own mind. Buddhism reminds us that the mistake was simply a moment of friction or temporary unawareness. But the self-hatred that follows is a deliberate poison we force ourselves to drink. Forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, nor is it making excuses for bad behavior. It is the courageous decision to drop the weapon you are actively using against yourself. Imagine a weary traveler carrying a heavy pack up a steep, rocky mountain path. The weather is harsh, the air is thin, and the road is entirely unforgiving. Suddenly, the traveler loses their footing, slips on a loose stone, and falls, scraping their knee on the hard ground. But instead of pausing to wash the small wound, instead of taking a moment to rest, the traveler becomes furious. They grab a heavy branch from the edge of the path and begin violently beating their own legs for being so clumsy. The original scrape from the fall was painful, but it was minor. The true, lasting injury is caused entirely by the traveler's own brutal punishment. Think about how often you become this traveler in your own life. You stumble during a long, difficult week. You drop the ball at work, or you lose your patience with a family member when you are completely exhausted. You suffer a small human fall on a steep path. But instead of offering yourself a moment of grace, you pick up the heavy branch of self-criticism. You sit alone in your room, beating yourself with harsh, unforgiving words, refusing to let the wound close. You withhold your own kindness at the exact moment you need it the most, forgetting that you are already carrying a heavy load. Just by trying to navigate this complex world, ask yourself, would you ever speak to a dear friend the way you speak to yourself after a mistake? Why do you believe that endless self-hatred will somehow guide you toward the light? Pause. Breathe. Let the harsh voice quiet down in the empty room. You do not have to be your own enemy today. Let the feeling of inadequacy rise, but refuse to strike back. Treat the self that stumbled with the same gentle grace you would offer a tired stranger. Because true inner peace is not the guarantee that you will never fall down. It is the quiet promise of how gently you will treat yourself when you are on the ground. But once you drop the heavy branch of punishment, you must decide how to step forward into the world again. And this is where the final truth begins. 9. Walking forward with a lighter step. What if the difficult day you have been running from was actually the very thing you needed to finally set yourself free? We began this journey looking at a single painful mistake. We looked at the heavy, sinking feeling of a moment gone wrong, and the exhausting fear that the entire world was watching you fall. But as you stand here now, looking back at the pieces, you can begin to see the truth. The agony was never about the stumble. It was always about how tightly you were holding on to the need to be perfect. You have carried the crushing weight of an invisible audience for so long. You have built heavy iron armor, desperately trying to protect a flawless image, confusing your temporary actions with your eternal worth. You have fought against the natural, moving river of time, trying to rewrite a past that has already moved on. You have punished yourself for simply being a breathing, shifting, imperfect human being, but you do not have to live this way anymore. You have the power to stop the silent war you are fighting against yourself. Buddhist wisdom does not promise us a life entirely free from mistakes. It does not teach us how to walk through the complex world without ever stumbling, or how to force the chaotic universe to perfectly match our expectations. Instead, it offers us something much deeper and much more resilient. It offers us the quiet, profound freedom of non-attachment. It reminds us that our true peace is found entirely in the present moment, in the gentle acceptance of things exactly as they are. When we let go of the rigid illusion of control, we finally make space for true self-respect. Imagine taking a deep, cleansing breath and finally stepping out of that unlocked cage. You are leaving the heavy, suffocating armor on the riverbank, trusting the water to carry you forward. You are no longer shouting at the lake, demanding that the ripples stop, because you know the water will eventually settle on its own in the quiet, dark. You are walking into the world not as a perfectly manufactured, flawless machine, but as a wild, deeply rooted tree in a vast forest, completely unbothered by a few broken branches. Think about your own life right now. The mistake you were so afraid of is already gone. The imaginary audience has already looked away. The heavy branch of self-criticism is finally resting peacefully on the ground. You are still here. You are still completely whole. The world has not ended because you were human on a difficult day. Your value remains untouched. Pause. Breathe. Let the lingering tension fully leave your shoulders. You do not need to spend another day defending your existence, and you do not need to endlessly earn your right to inner peace. When the next stumble happens, and it will, because you are alive, you will know exactly what to do. You will observe the spark without giving it fuel. Do your part. Learn what the messy moment has to teach you. And then softly, gently, release the outcome. Walk forward with a lighter step, trusting that you are exactly where you need to be. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. You can let go now.